Good afternoon. It is November 12th, and I'm doing a little framing. It just looks like a jumble of tic-tac-toe right now, but these are all walls. I'm building a 4x4 by 4 foot enclosure and then wrapping it. With it's coated. It's actually got a plastic coat on it. It's real thin, 1/4 inch melamine basically. And there's going to be enclosure for a solar power plant, solar/wind power plant in a remote location for a friend and a customer. Figured I'd document something before I got too far here, but yeah, I was just making cuts and throwing it together. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty decent capacity system. We're using a split phase 4,000 watt inverter. It'll be a 48 volt system with 1 kilowatt solar, and the newer version of that turbine with 3-blade 810 millimeter furling blades, because he's at high altitude and on top of a hill, so it's going to see some real wind. Either of my turbines, the one at 35 foot or 25 foot, have ever seen the kind of wind that this one is going to see. So I'll probably only have it on a 20-foot pole. I'm going to keep the factory tail on it. I'm just going to balance it and paint it so it is weatherized and protected from the sun, and that's going to run power to a well pump, 240 volt well pump, and it's going to build the cabins that will eventually sit there and will power those cabins when they're built. So, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere with nothing. So we got to have something to house the components in. I poured 4 foot by 4 foot concrete slab, 4 inches deep, and on top of that I'm going to put some 1/4 inch foam, and on top of that I've got actually kind of funny, I'll just grab it quick. I used this same idea in my chicken coop over there, and you can't see it because of the glare, but an electric blanket. So that will get spread out, folded in to fit the floor of the enclosure, and then I'll put another layer of foam on top of that, and that'll keep the real hard freeze out of the box. I'll put that on a digital thermostatic relay, so when we get down to dangerous temperatures, if it's in the middle of the night and there's no wind, because the charge controllers, the wind and the solar charge controller are both going to generate a little bit of heat, and the batteries charging, having amperage going to the batteries, is going to generate a little bit of heat internally. The inverter will probably generate a little bit of heat. So I don't think during the days it's going to be necessary for that to be on, but at nighttime, if the wind is not blowing and it's just bitter cold, we get 20, 30, 40 below zero some winters, and that's more than enough to destroy a battery if it's just sitting there in the middle of a field, getting froze. So that this is just going to help keep the hard cold, the hard freeze off the batteries at nighttime, basically. And so when, you know, if the box gets down to 20 degrees, 25 degrees, it'll kick that on. I believe it says right on the package. It only uses 4 amps, so 4 amps at 12 volts. That's about 48 watts. So being a 48 volt system, I'll have a 48 volt to 12 volt step down, and all that's going to run is that, and that's only going to get used in the really cold parts of winter, so it won't eat up a lot of battery power. It'll be better to use the little bit of power it costs to run this than to let the batteries hard freeze. But I still got work to do, so I'm going to keep chipping along, get this box built, and then I can start thinking about my door and my roof and how I'm going to bolt it all down. And I'm going to put the 4x4s along the side of the box, and the rack for the solar panels is going to be bolted right to it, and that's going to be, the whole box itself is going to be bolted down to the cement. But I figure it's going to be real similar. We're doing 10 of these same panels, so I'll probably have 12-foot 2x4s spanning with 2 pivot points, 2 4x4s, and then the box right in the middle. It'll be real similar. It'll look real similar to this, with a big wooden box right in the middle of there, and then all the components right underneath it. And that's going to keep the wires short. And then the only thing we have to run down a long wire is the 240 volt, and that'll be no problem. There's virtually no voltage drop on the AC side, you know, running a 150-foot wire versus if we were running 150-foot wire from our panels or from our turbines. We absolutely would have considerable voltage drop, and we'd have to series these panels up as high as possible, and, you know, see if I could get like a 96-volt stator for the turbine if I was gonna run the wires that long. So we're just doing a compact power station right under the panels, and everything will be kept short and efficient. So anyhow, I'm gonna keep working, and we'll check back when we got a box, and hopefully sometime this week I can get up there and get her bolted down and start installing components. Alright, see you later. Well, there it is in all her glory. Handmade door, locks on the top and bottom, keep her nice and tight. Like I said, there's going to be some real wind in the location this is going. I went with a self-adhesive. It's a vinyl, real heavy duty. This is really badass stuff. For the roof, de-edged it all, bent and overlapped all my flashing, trimmed out the corners. I'm hoping this hinge is going to hold up. They're supposed to. We'll see. That's an easy swap either way. I ended up blocking out for my posts. I've only got pilot holes drilled where the rack is going to ride, but real heavy duty. These are all 12-inch lag bolts that go all the way in. This is blocked out. This whole thing up and down is solid. So yeah, she's ready to go on the truck and head north. We can peek inside real quick. Block that all in. Just rock solid. But then kind of shimmed up the roof just a little bit to have have the middle be the high spot, so any water that sneaks past the solar panels. There is going to be a big solar rack over this, so it shouldn't get too much weather from the top, but just to keep it from pooling up. So yeah, and flashed in the doorway so any snow that collects here won't seep its way into the wood. And took some exterior sealant and just anywhere and anything that could possibly absorb any moisture. Got sealed up, and I didn't show you, but there is a handle on the inside here. This could double as a storm shelter just because it's so solid. He doesn't have any structures there yet, so if when they begin construction of their cabins and some nasty weather comes up the hill, you can always hop in here at the very least, and this is going to be bolted to the ground, and will be sitting on a concrete slab that is rotted into the ground. So I'd be willing to bet it'd be safer than sitting in your car anyhow. I would sit in this thing, and if there was trees coming down or whatever, rather than sitting in a car. So there it is. It's ready to go on the truck. Waiting for my helper to. It's gonna take a little bit of oomph to get her up on the truck and back down, but we'll get her. It's not ridiculously heavy yet. So, well, there she is. This will be your future home. We're only dealing with probably 10-mile-an-hour wind here, and it's almost tipping me over. It's accelerating as it comes up the hill. Attached to that there, and I don't think we'll have to be very high to make serious power here. So